Chapter 2 talks about the ethical guidelines and regulation of paralegals. And as we've already talked about, their paralegals in and of themselves are not licensed or regulated, so to speak. However, you need to follow as a paralegal the rules of professional conduct just as the attorneys need to follow the rules of professional conduct. And if we haven't talked about it in class already, we will be the next time we meet in the classroom. Pennsylvania Rule of Professional Conduct 5.3, which deals with the attorney's obligation to ensure everyone in the firm follows these rules as well. However, with this chapter, we're going to focus specifically on the paralegal profession. So a couple things to keep in mind. One is that the paralegal profession is relatively young. It has not been around for very long. Chapter 2 gives a nice history of the paralegal profession, but you only have been in business, so to speak, as a paralegal for about 40 to 50 years. Paralegals also are sometimes called legal assistants. The paralegal studies program at HAC used to be legal assistant program. The ABA accepts both terms, but they changed their terminology to paralegal probably about 10 to 15 years ago. And so at that time, HAC changed the name of our program from legal assistants to paralegals. I think one of the things that prevents is some confusion between a legal administrative assistant or legal secretary and a paralegal, because the positions can certainly be combined positions, but they technically are not the same position, and the training for the positions are not the same. So we are focusing, obviously, here at HAC on the paralegal position. Paralegals were first used primarily in legal services programs which provide free legal assistance to low-income individuals, mainly because they just did not have the resources to answer the need. I spent most of my time practicing with legal services programs, and so I saw this firsthand. The need for people to be able to access the legal system and have appropriate legal representation can be very limited for people in certain income groups. So the use of paralegals allow legal services programs to assist and represent more people. The ABA formally endorsed the use of paralegals in 1967, and you do not need to worry about these time frames specifically. But as an educational program, these programs started popping up in the 1970s, and you can see the statistics there that there are over 800 programs across the country now, and about 250 of the programs like HAC are ABA approved programs. So again, it just shows you how new this profession really is. There are two primary paralegal associations on the national level, and there's some other related ones, but these are the ones that are very paralegal specific. The first one is NALA, the National Association of Legal Assistants. This is an organization that you as an individual can join. If you end up working in the Lancaster area, many paralegals in that area are members of NALA and have also taken the certified paralegal exam. That is a standardized exam. And if you decide to take that, you can earn the credential of CP certified paralegal and be able to use that designation after your name. And if you would like more information about NALA or the certification, you can go to the NALA link in the website section of our class on D2L. The other national organization is National Federation of Paralegal Associations. National Federation of Paralegal Associations is the association that the Central Pennsylvania Paralegal Association belongs to. So if you do join Central Pennsylvania Paralegal Association, or CPPA, you will then automatically also be a member of the NFPA. Now, this organization also offers a credentialing exam. They actually offer two. They offer the PACE exam, which is a more advanced specialty type of exam. You have to have been practicing as a paralegal in the legal field for a certain amount of time before you're eligible for that one. They also have a fairly new exam, which is the Paralegal Core Competency Exam, which has only been in place a couple of years. And you can take that as a new paralegal. You do not actually have to practice. This one seems to be more the equivalent of the certified paralegal designation that NALA offers. Any individual who successfully passes this exam can use the designation CRP, or Core Registered Paralegal Designation. And again, you can find more information about that test and that organization in the links on D2L. The Keystone Alliance of Paralegal Associations, this link is also in D2L. This is the umbrella organization of the different paralegal associations in Pennsylvania. What I think is most important that you know about Keystone Alliance of Paralegal Associations is that they offer a Pennsylvania Certified Paralegal Designation, which would be PACP. And at this point, I would recommend that you look into receiving this designation as soon as possible. If you go to the CAPA website, again in the D2L website section for this course, you will see information about the Pennsylvania Certified Paralegal. One of the reasons I encourage you to do it is, as soon as you're able to, is that at this point in time, there is no examination. It is based on your education and your work experience. And so when you leave HAC with either your associate degree or your certificate, if you already have a bachelor's degree, you will have met the education requirement, and all you will need then to do is meet the employment requirement, and that varies depending on whether or not you have a bachelor's degree already or an associate's degree. And then once you meet that requirement, you fill out the form, your employer has to verify your employment, and you send it in, and you can then become a Pennsylvania Certified Paralegal. Should this ever become more widespread or more formalized, an examination may become part of it. And if that happens, you would likely be grandfathered in because you would already have this designation and you would not have to take the exam. So again, it's an extra credential. I think it's a good thing to get once you have the appropriate work experience, but I think it's also very beneficial because should this become something that is more rigorous, you would likely be grandfathered in since you already have the designation and would not have to take the examination. The Central Pennsylvania Paralegal Association is the Harrisburg-based paralegal association, offers continuing education opportunities, offers job bank, notice of job postings, great networking opportunity. These paralegal associations are all volunteer, and they're only as strong as the members who are joining it. So you can certainly join and do nothing, but you can also join and be more involved. And so it is something to look into and see if that's something that interests you. And as I already mentioned, the Lancaster Paralegal Association, LAPA, Lancaster Area Paralegal Association, that link is also in D2L, and it's very similar to CPPA. York County has in the past had a paralegal association. As I think I've previously mentioned, that may not still be in effect, but if you are living and working in York County, look into that and see if that's a possibility. Next thing I want to talk about is the difference between certification and licensing. And this is an important designation to understand because there frequently is a conversation, and I apologize if you just heard the little ESPN warning come up on my cell phone. But there frequently is a conversation about whether or not paralegals should be certified or possibly be licensed. Other states have offered programs, which I'll talk about in a minute, but there has not been a huge movement overall, but it is something that gets discussed. And so you should be aware of the differences because it may be something you have to think about or be involved in. So the difference between the two terms, licensing, if you are required to be licensed to do something, you must be licensed to do something. Attorneys have to be licensed, doctors have to be licensed, barbers have to be licensed, accountants have to be licensed in many cases. So, so it's a requirement to work in the field, and along with that, there's certain standards that have to be met, there are certain dues that have to be paid, those types of things. A certification is voluntary. So if you were to get the Pennsylvania Certified Paralegal designation or do one of the exams under NALA or NFPA, that is voluntary. You do not have to do that to work in the field. It is an additional credential. It is something that can be beneficial to you when you are looking for a job or looking to negotiate a raise or looking just to improve your skills and knowledge base, but it is not necessarily something that you have to work in the field. If anyone ever talks about licensing, that means that there are certain requirements that must be met in order to work in the field. And that is not where the paralegal field is right now, but it is something that gets mentioned, and there are definitely pros and cons. The textbook talks about the pros and cons. Please look at those and have an understanding of what those pros and cons are, and whether or not you would want to be licensed, because there's certainly some good things about it, and there can also be some negatives. Other states have dealt with programs regarding licensing or certification. North Carolina was the first state to have a statewide paralegal certification program, and it talks about it in the textbook. You do not need to know the details of it, but it is good to review just to see what they have done. The first couple years they had this program in place, you could get certified with just your education and experience, and then after that they added an exam, which is one of the reasons I encourage you to get the Pennsylvania Certified Paralegal designation while you can without an exam. The newest and the most interesting trend or program right now is the state of Washington. They currently have what is called a limited licensed legal technician, or LLLT, which is a horrible name to get over. It just does not roll off the tongue. It specifically allows anyone who has the LLLT designation to do more work than what paralegals traditionally can do. You can explain procedures, provide self-help materials, explain letters and documents, draft documents, research, complete forms on their behalf. And the state of Washington was starting this program in the area of family law. So I'm sure other states are going to be looking at that to see how it develops and how successful it is. But usually when one state starts to have success, you start to see it spread to other states. So it is something you want to be aware of, because Washington is the first state that really has expanded beyond what generally a paralegal is able to do. Some states have taken much more basic steps, such as defining paralegal, who can use the term paralegal. Some states have registration programs, which they're supposed to register if you're going to be a paralegal, but there's no certain requirements in order to be able to register. Some states have come up with legal document preparer credentials. I believe California is one of those states, as an attempt to regulate who can actually help people prepare documents. And all of these efforts are in a large part an effort to try to stem the unauthorized practice of law, trying to prevent people from just saying, oh, I'm a paralegal, or I can prepare legal documents, and having people come to them when they really don't know what they are doing, and ending up harming these clients and harming the legal profession, both attorneys and paralegals overall. And so when we get into Chapter 3 in UPL, the unauthorized practice of law, we will talk about that more in depth. And then the last thing you want to pay attention to is the similarity between the rules of professional conduct that attorneys must follow and the NFPA model code, which is the appendix in the back of your textbook. And just have an understanding of the ethical traits that the NFPA model code follows, such as competency, integrity, professional conduct, protecting confidential information, avoiding conflicts of interest, making sure everybody understands that you are a paralegal as opposed to an attorney, and avoiding the unauthorized practice of law. Many of which of these topics we're going to be discussing in more detail as in the next several weeks. But this lays a nice foundation, and you want to start getting very familiar with these concepts and understanding that these rules are basically the same for paralegals and attorneys, and we have the same obligations. So that is it for Chapter 2.